Hey everybody, welcome to the video for my first look for week 3 of the NFL season over on DraftKings. And keep in mind this video is being recorded on Tuesday, so a lot can change throughout the week. And that's why we do a final look video at the end, core plays, line building videos, and all that once we get all the information that we need for the rest of the weekend. And if you do find this video helpful in any way possible, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you want to take that one step further, become an official member over on Patreon. Link is down below in the description for that. If you do want to join the community of a couple hundred people, we got spreadsheets, ownership, projections, and a bunch of other things. So if you want to check it out, link is down below. And last but not least, this video is sponsored by Prize Picks. I'm sure most of you know what it is by now, but if you don't, it's daily fantasy sports simplified, just you versus the projections. There's no sharks, 150 max contests, or salary cap restrictions, or anything like that. Just you versus the props they offer each and every single day. As for right now, for your new signee over on Prize Picks, you can get a free money bonus. That's an instant deposit match up to $100 when you use code CPEN and tell them I sent you. I think that'll be it for the plugs for the most part, so without further ado, let's dive into today's video. And as always, we'll start with the quarterback position. And up top, we have the man Kyler Murray, $8,300. The price is quite steep this week, but he has been kind of a cheat code the first 2 weeks of the season. If you're looking at his numbers so far, he has been absolutely crushing it, whether it be on the ground or through the air. He's got 7 passing touchdowns in 2 games, also has 2 rushing touchdowns on 51 rushing yards. 38, 34 fantasy points, 2 good matchups in a row with Tennessee and Minnesota, and gets another really good matchup here versus Jacksonville, one of the worst defenses in football. We have a team total right around 30, sitting at 29.75. We have around a 57-point over-under, so a lot of points should be scored once again. Arizona's defense is not that great, so if the Jacksonville Jaguars can keep this game somewhat close, it's currently a 7.5-point spread, so I do worry about that a little bit, but I don't think Kyler Murray should be in question of being a good fantasy starter or not, because I don't think this game's going to get too out of hand or anything, so I am loving Kyler this week. I would love to fit him in this lineup. I'm just concerned that at his price point, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to fit him. So if we don't fit him, no big deal. I still like him. It is purely just a price thing, and there's a couple other quarterbacks that are a little bit cheaper in the 6K range that I feel like have somewhat similar upside, point per dollar wise, not points wise. Then right below him, you have Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. Obviously, these guys are going to be in play. Patrick Mahomes is pretty much the best quarterback in football. We have a 55.5-point over-under here, which is currently the highest in the entire slate. 6-point spread here. There should be a back-and-forth game for the most part. Chargers have a lot of firepower on offense. The Kansas City Chiefs defense has not looked great at all so far in 2 weeks versus Baltimore and Cleveland. Obviously, 2 tough matchups there. They get another tough matchup here versus the Chargers, so I could see this game shooting out. But for $100 more, I'd rather take Kyler Murray because he has that built-in rushing floor, which Patrick Mahomes just doesn't really have. Lamar Jackson, talking about rushing floors, he has the biggest rushing floor of any quarterback each and every single week. All the running backs being out, he's pretty much taken on the RB1 role. I mean, last week versus KC, it's 16 rushing attempts for 107 rush yards, 86 rushing yards the week before that. He pretty much has, just from his rushing yards, a built-in 2 to 2.5 passing touchdown floor, just points-wise, because you get 4 points per passing touchdown. And so far, he's given you 8 to 10 points just on the ground so far, not even to mention what he does through the air. And this is a great matchup versus Detroit. They just get absolutely killed by Aaron Jones on the ground in week 2. They got killed on the ground versus the 49ers in week 1. Lamar Jackson, obviously the best running quarterback in football, should be able to do a lot of damage here versus Detroit on the road in the fast track and the turf. The quarterback I actually like a lot this week is going to be Matthew Stafford here at $6,400. I personally feel like he's a bit underpriced. This is a very good offense, and I think this game is going to be a shootout. Looking at some of the early Vegas lines, this game features a 54.5-point over-under, and the spread's only half a point right now. So I'm expecting a very close back-and-forth game. Both teams have some pretty solid defenses, although the Buccaneers are a lot tougher on the ground than they are versus the air. It's definitely their soft spot, which I think bodes well for the passing attack here for the LA Rams. And we have Cooper Kupp, who has been exceptional the first 2 weeks. Robert Woods kind of lagging behind. We got Tyler Higbee. It's really not that hard of a stack to accomplish here, and even the run back options for the Buccaneers are actually kind of cheap. So just for the sake of this first look lineup, we're going to throw Matthew Stafford in here. He's been great the first 2 weeks. 27 and 18 fantasy points. Obviously didn't kill it last week, but he's still nearly 300 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns. I think he just makes sense to plug in here. I mean, he's $2,000 cheaper than Kyler Murray. I don't think he's going to score the same amount of points as Kyler Murray, but on point per dollar basis, I think he can actually be quite close this week when it's all said and done. Since we're going the Matthew Stafford route, I need some pass catching options with him. And there's a few options actually. I think it's between Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, or Tyler Higbee. We could end up playing all 3 if you want to. Oh, the one guy I want to make sure I get in is his breakfast buddy, Cooper Kupp at $6,800, who has been amazing the first 2 weeks as he has 21 targets, leads the NFL in target share at 38%, 16 catches, nearly 300 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns, nearly 40 points last week, close to 30 the week before that. He's going to have a really good matchup here versus Tampa Bay. He gets a lot of his usage out of the slot. Matthew Stafford's going to look his way quite often. I know the price keeps rising, but I think this is a fair price point below $7,000 for, as of right now, the highest target share wide receiver in the NFL. We're going to plug him in, and I feel pretty good about it as of right now. Now, we could move on to the tight end position, fit in Tyler Higbee with Matthew Stafford. We'll see if he fits at the end here. But I do want a pass-catching option as a run back from the Tampa Bay side of this game. And there's many options here. We could go with Mike Evans. we could go with Chris Godwin, we could go with Antonio Brown. And if you're looking at their pricing distribution this week on DraftKings, Evans leads the trio here at $6,300, Godwin at $6,100, and Antonio Brown is very cheap at only $5,200. I realize he only had one catch last week for 17 yards, but I do think he's going to bounce back. I still think he's pretty much the best wide receiver on that team. I know it didn't look like it that week, but the week before that, the guy was an absolute baller. Looking at Chris Godwin's numbers this year, he had 5 targets last week, had a touchdown. Still overall pretty solid fantasy game. Then the week before that, 13 targets and 9 catches and got into the end zone. Antonio Brown only got one of his 3 targets for 17 yards, a very, very poor outing. It was not expected, especially after the week he had before that, where he absolutely balled out, had that nice 47-yard touchdown. But I do like this price point quite a bit. But for the purpose of this lineup, I think I'm going to go the Chris Godwin route. If we have to save some money at the end, we can just drop Chris Godwin for Antonio Brown. But as for right now, we will ride with Godwin. At this point, I'd like to try to find some running backs, and I'm probably not going to spend top dollar for running back once again this week. Obviously, Derrick Henry had like 50 DraftKings points, absolutely killed it in the second half. Versus Seattle was kind of surprising, especially after the start that he had. Dalvin Cook is always a good option if you have the money for him. Alvin Kamara was very disappointing last week, was not really that great in week 1 either. He needs the ball more through the air. We'll have to see if Jameis Winston can get that fixed. Nick Chubb had a weird lack of usage in the first half of that game. Like midway through the second quarter, Nick Chubb had 1 carry in that game versus pretty much the worst rushing defense in football. Made absolutely no sense. He still ended the game with nearly 100 yards, got into the end zone, got kind of screwed by a fullback dive for a touchdown, then Baker Mayfield ran one in. He could have very easily had like 30 to 40 points. So if you rostered Nick Chubb last week, I mean, don't think it was a bad play. You just kind of ran as bad as possible. I mean, Nick Chubb had a good game. It's just he was not getting the work, and then around the goal line, he kept getting screwed too. Austin Eckler is always going to be a fantastic option with his receiving upside. He had no targets in week 1, but that was fixed in week 2. His receiving work definitely makes him a very high floor running back with also a very high ceiling. Jonathan Taylor's fine. I'm never really a big fan of using him. I might just use Najee Harris again. I know it's kind of a boring play, and he's been very inefficient on the ground. But he had some passing game work last week. He had a nice 25-yard receiving touchdown. I believe he had 5 catches. And actually, on one drive, he had 3 catches in a row. It's just the expected game script didn't really work out as they found themselves trailing versus the Raiders in this one. But they are favorites at home. Once again, they're 4.5-point favorites here versus the division rivals, the Cincinnati Bengals, who I really don't think are going to pose a huge threat here to the Steelers. I think they are going to win this game. Although it's possible the way they are playing that they could be trailing once again. But Najee Harris, he's on the field pretty much each and every single snap. He did not play 100% of the snaps this time around, but it was very close to it. He is going to be on the field a ton. That's all I can really ask for a running back that's $6,600 as a home favorite. So we're just going to plug him in once again. I know, very inefficient. 3.8 yards per carry last week, 2.8 in week 1. It's been gross, but he's going to be able to pass a game. We should expect around 15 to 20 total touches from him. I will take that at $6,600. That really nice run where he threw a guy, made a move. Really just a volume play in this lineup. And then right below Najee Harris, we do have Saquon Barkley at $6,500, who gets a decent matchup here versus Atlanta. I will say they're more of a pass funnel defense. We did see a snap share rise in week 2, and I actually think he's going to be somewhat of a viable player at $6,500. But I just feel like Chris Carson might be a bit safer here. This game features a 55.5-point over-under. They're 1.5-point favorite. Should be very back and forth. Minnesota's run defense last year was not very good. I know the rushing yard total wasn't great for Chris Carson last week, but he did find the end zone. He's obviously going to get the carries on the goal line. But, the Seahawks should be able to put up a lot of points here. I'd not be surprised if Chris Carson finds the end zone once or twice once again. Hopefully, he can be better than 2.4 yards per carry and get more than 13 rushing attempts this time and 0 targets. That honestly feels like about as worst as he could do. I'd say it's only really up from here. Just a matter of if he gets the touchdowns or not. But at $6,400, I think Chris Carson is still firmly in play. These guys are both in very similar spots as they were last week, and they're both around the same price tags. And these were the chalk running backs, so if people liked them last week, I don't see why they wouldn't like them again. Moving back over to wide receiver, there's a lot of good receiving options. We have Tyreek Hill, which should be a shootout. We have DeAndre Hopkins versus a very bad Jacksonville secondary. And if you're using Kyler Murray, probably a good idea to pair him up with a guy like DeAndre Hopkins. But there's some cheaper options we could pair him with, like Rondale Moore, who was very good last week, Christian Kirk, and even AJ Green. I'll have to wait and see who fits at the end, but I wouldn't mind trying to get one of those guys in this lineup, even though I don't have Kyler Murray, just to try to get some exposure to what should be another very good game from Kyler through the air. Considering we only have around $4,400 left per player, we're going to have to find some value, and a guy I like a lot on the opposite side of that Cardinals game is Marvin Jones, who has been great in the air yards department so far. He's actually 3rd in the league in total air yards right now, and the guy has been getting a lot of volume. We have 20 targets through 2 weeks, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are playing awful, and they have to throw the ball pretty much the entire game. Marvin Jones is pretty much going to be the guy for Trevor Lawrence. He's going to throw the ball a lot. Once again, this Arizona secondary is very, very bad. There's a lot of beatable matchups here. Marvin Jones is a guy that can definitely win these matchups, and if he's going to get me close to double-digit targets, get some down-the-field shots, and more than likely find the end zone, I would take that all day below $5,000. So I'll plug plug in Marvin Jones here at our wide receiver 3 spot. Just moving on to tight end here. I mean, since we have Matthew Stafford, we could probably just throw in Tyler Higbee. I only had 1 target and 1 catch last week for 8 yards, which was a big disappointment after last week having 6 targets, 5 catches, nearly 70 yards, but he's still the tight end 1 here. He's always on the field. He's always running around, so $4,000 just is a cheap pairing option with Matthew Stafford here in this lineup. I don't mind going back to the well there at only $4,000. That's going to leave us $4,400 left per player. Keep in mind, we still have one of those being a defense, so we can definitely afford a decent flex here. If you just want to throw in a random defense here, I think we could either go the Falcons versus Daniel Jones, even though he looked great last week. So if you just want to throw whatever in, we could go the Dolphins. I guess Derek Carr is questionable to play in this game, although I assume he's going to play. So let's just throw in the Falcons at $2,500. Again, I'm not saying I like the Falcons, just for the sake of this lineup. We will throw them in. So we have $6,300 left for our last spot. We could go with Joe Mixon versus Pittsburgh. Don't really love the matchup there. I wouldn't say Mixon correlates well with having Najee Harris in the same lineup, so I guess we can bypass that. Want to get another Tampa Bay pass catching option? You have Mike Evans here. Allen Robinson actually I think makes some sense here versus Cleveland. They are 7.5-point dogs on the road. And with Andy Dalton being hurt, we could see Justin Fields get the start here, and Allen Robinson definitely would get a boost there. And Cleveland secondary did not look good whatsoever with Tyrod Taylor in the first half of week 1. Brandon Cooks cooked them a little bit. You know, Allen Robinson is definitely very talented, although we'll have to wait and see in the quarterback situation for Chicago. Or even Cortland Sutton here at only $6,000. He actually leads the league in air yards this season. I know it's only a 2-week sample size, but without Jerry Jeudy last week versus Jacksonville, he had 12 targets, 9 catches, 160 yards, good for 28 fantasy points. Did not find the end zone, but 17.7 yards per catch. So I actually think I like him a little bit more than I like Allen Robinson. He's also facing a Jets secondary that was not very good whatsoever last season. So we'll just plug in Cortland Sutton here, which if you do that, you could upgrade your defense a little bit. But again, I don't really care about my defense. We'll figure that out at the end of the week. But I don't think that's a bad first look lineup. We have a little Tampa and LA stack here with Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee, ran back with Chris Godwin. We have Najee Harris and Chris Carson, the same exact running backs I used last week, just because of the volume. I don't mind the matchups and the potential game scripts there. We have Marvin Jones, who's 3rd in air yards this season. They should be chilling once again, facing a very weak Arizona secondary, and what could be a very high-scoring game. And we have Cortland Sutton, actually 1st in air yards this season. No Jerry Jeudy, so I think he's going to be in another really good spot here versus the Jets. And we have random defense at the end to fill this out. And that leaves us $300 left remaining in this lineup. So I hope it was helpful, and if it was, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet already. If you want to take that one step further, become an official member over on Patreon. Link is down below in the description for that, where I have all my spreadsheets with all the data you'd ever need, color-coded nice and neat, so I do think it's quite helpful. Also has projections, projected ownership, and things like that. All stuff that you should find very helpful each and every single week when you're playing DFS. And we have many more videos planned throughout the week, including Showdown tomorrow, core plays, lineup building videos on Saturday, and then the final look on Friday. So I'll be posted for those, but I'll leave you guys with that. Wish you guys the best of luck for the rest of your work week, and I'll see you guys in the next one.